Hi, Jeff. Love your show. You fire me up in the morning and everybody else, and I think it's great.
Seeing in front of me the disintegration of our society and what's happening, that is why the Kuhner Report is so crucial. I use it as a barometer, as an anchor.
Jeff Kuhner, 680 RKO. That's red, white, and blue dynamite, baby.
If you need to wake up, you might as well wake up smarter. Jeff Kuhner, every weekday morning from 6 to 10 on WRKO.
Good morning, Boston. 6:05 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868, and you can also text us at 680-680. A lot to talk about, a lot to discuss today. Just so much going on, I got to tell you that. But no, the Kuhner man is going to be on overdrive, I believe, all week, leading up to our huge Stop the Invasion rally against illegal immigration this Saturday from 11 to 1, 11 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon, up on Beacon Hill at the steps of the state legislature. We will be there this Saturday, July 26th. The mayor of Lynn will be there. Sean O'Connell will be there. Mark Lombardo, state representative, will be there. We're going to have a lot of people showing up. I need all of you to come out in big numbers, my friends, because the issue is getting hotter and hotter and, frankly, more dangerous by the day. This press conference by Mini-Me, the one that has everyone talking, and frankly, even the national media laughing at us. They're laughing at us all across the country. Took place after the show ended, my show, the Kuhner Report ended at 10 o'clock. So I didn't have a chance to broadcast it live and give my commentary. Before I play the audio clips, I have to say, it was a spectacle. It was a joke. If it wasn't so tragic and so serious in terms of the circumstances, it would frankly be comical. There is Mini-Me, and now you know why I've tagged him with the term Mini-Me and why he hates it so much. There he is trying to do his best imitation of Barack Hussein Obama, of the dear leader. He's trying to have the high-sounding rhetoric. He's trying to have the charisma. He's trying to be somebody who he thinks can appeal to everyone's better nature and come across as this brilliant humanitarian socialist, the man who embodies compassion. And he just can't pull it off. I mean, he just can't do it. He's a cheap, third-class version of the dear leader. He's a little mini-me. And I gotta tell you, I watched it again last night. I was on the floor. It's better than any movie I could have seen this weekend. That thing was incredible comedy. So I want to set the stage. So the whole country is shocked. They can't believe it. Maryland's liberal Democratic governor said no to these illegal immigrants. Uber liberal. Ultra-liberal. You don't pretty much get more to the left than the governor of Connecticut, the Democratic governor of Connecticut. He says no. Never mind Republicans saying no. The Democrats in state after state, city after city, town after town are saying no mas, no more. We can't take any more. But there's Mini-Me. And remember, when we first talked about this on Thursday, that he was starting to give us, fleshing out the details of the plan. What did Mini-Me say? He said we're looking at several hundred. Several hundred. To me, several hundred means 200, maybe 300 tops. Suddenly, we went from 200 and 300 to 1,000. It's incredible. Suddenly now, Mini-Me announced that we are going to be taking in the state of Massachusetts, a minimum of 1,000, quote, unaccompanied minors, unquote, ranging in age from 5 years old to 17 years of age. That's wink, wink to a lot of the teenagers and gangbangers out there, but let that go. And not only were we going to take 1,000 of them, so now we've gone from 200 to 1,000, just like that, just like the snap of the fingers, just like that. But then he said they're looking at 2 possible locations. They're looking at the Joint Base Cape Cod in Bourne. Remember Cape Cod? They were talking a lot about this, Camp Edwards. Joint Base Cape Cod in Bourne. They want 2 major military bases. And they're also going to be looking at Westover Air Base in Chicopee. So basically they want to dump them in Cape Cod and Chicopee. And not only do they want to dump them in Cape Cod and Chicopee, but they want a lot of spaces so that the children can sleep, they can eat, they can play, they can go to school. He says the average stay for these children sheltered there is going to be about 45 days. He says it's going to be about 4 months. I don't believe him. I don't believe him. I think it's going to be much longer than 4 months, but let that go. They're going to be brought in with, they're going to be given age-appropriate toys, books. They're also going to be brought in some translators, teachers who can speak Spanish. Faith and refugee organizations are going to be helping out. In other words, they're going to get everything. They're going to get schooling paid for. They're going to get their education paid for. They're going to get their health paid for. They're going to get their food paid for, their housing paid for, everything. All on our tab. All on our tab. Including toys. They even get toys. And he's surrounded. I swear to you, I couldn't make this up. Behind him are all of these religious leaders, led by the Archbishop of Boston, Cardinal Sean O'Malley. And there's Cardinal O'Malley in his Jesuit dress, in his Jesuit outfit, with the big cross on his chest. I couldn't believe it. And so not only does he have O'Malley behind him, he's got other Protestant ministers behind him. There was everybody was behind him. Every religious leader was behind him. And then Mini-Me says that it's about who we are as a nation, who we are as a people, and I swear to you that his conscience, his faith dictates we have to take the children in. It's for the good of America, and it's for the good of the children, because God himself, I swear to you, in the Bible says so. Roll it, Brittany.
If we can't and won't turn to it in moments of human need.
Okay, hold on. We have a temporary computer malfunction.
We have consulted with the federal government to assure they will meet all the children's needs and bear all the costs. We have consulted with refugee agencies to understand what the children's needs actually will be. And I have talked with faith leaders, some of whom are here, and searched my own conscience. I have come down where I have for 2 main reasons: love of country and lessons of faith. We are a great nation. Unlike any other superpower, America's power, to paraphrase a great man, comes from giving, not from taking. America, and this Commonwealth in particular, has given sanctuary to desperate children for centuries. We have rescued Irish children from famine, Russian and Ukrainian children from religious persecution, Cambodian children from genocide, Haitian children from earthquakes, Sudanese children from civil war, and children from New Orleans from Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah. So, I mean, the BS, by the way, then he goes on again about, I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, let's get to the Holocaust. Let's throw that in, then I'll comment. Go ahead. Roll it. The Holocaust
again. We turned
our
backs on Jewish children fleeing the Nazis, and it remains a blight on our national reputation.
Unbelievable.
The point is that this good nation is great when we open our doors and our hearts to needy children, and diminished when we don't.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. There he is. Hold on. Hold on. Brittany says you want to get to... Not yet. We're going to get to the crying in a second here, Brittany. So, first of all, notice this. Okay? Notice this. By the way, my bad. O'Malley, apparently I'm getting a lot of texts on this. My bad. I'm confusing him with someone else. O'Malley's a Franciscan, not a Jesuit. My bad. Forgive me. But there he is in his religious attire with the huge cross on his chest. Okay? So everybody's got a cross. Everybody's very religious. A lot of religious ministers behind him. Suddenly now, he's like Deacon Duvall. Now, suddenly, I use this term because the liberals use it always pejoratively, disparagingly, quote, Bible thumper. Okay, so, because I read the Bible, I respect the Bible, I revere the Bible, I can't stand it when people use that term, but the liberals use it, so I'm going to use it the way they use it. He sounded like a, quote, Bible thumper, unquote. There he is, pounding the pulpit, thumping the Bible. There was Mini-Me. First of all, have you noticed, what the hell happened to separation of church and state? That's all these libs ever talk about. You talk about abortion, the murder of unborn children, but let that go. You talk about same-sex marriage. You talk about homosexual rights. You talk about transgenderism. Issue after issue after issue. Don't mention your faith. We can't have religion in the public square. We can't have religion influencing public policy. We have to have separation of church and state. Don't talk about religion. Don't mention religion. And God forbid, you never should have religious leaders expressing their opinion on public policy issues. That's theocracy. That's medieval. But suddenly, when it suits their interests, when they want to ram illegal immigrants down our throats against the will of the United States, against the will of the people of Massachusetts, suddenly, all of a sudden, he's quoting Scripture. All of a sudden, he's looked into his conscience. He's looked into his faith. What does his faith say? He's surrounded by religious people. And suddenly now, if we're a Christian nation, if we're a good religious nation, if we walk in the steps of Jesus, then we must admit these illegal immigrants. I believe. I'm looking, I go, is this guy serious? Is this guy for real? And how is this going to help the United States? How does bringing in another 1,000 at a minimum, it's going to be much more than that. That's just the first wave. How does bringing in 1,000 illegal immigrants, many of them criminals, and I'll get to this now, there are statistics, 1 in 5 are criminals, many of them tied to MS-13, violent gangs, many of them tied to the drug cartels, many more bringing all kinds of diseases, scabies, tuberculosis, measles, chickenpox, swine flu, you name it, they're bringing them in. How does this help the United States? How does it help to drain our hospitals, strain our welfare system, overload our schools? How does this help us? It is so bad, I swear to you, that the 2 bases that they've picked out, already the people who are on those bases are saying, are you kidding? There's no space for us. There's no space for us. And now you want to bring in even more? We can't take any more on the base in Cape Cod. We can't take any more at Westover in Chicopee. But it's for the children, according to Mini-Me. And then, after being roundly denounced and excoriated for desecrating the memory of the Holocaust, and for the Jews that were sent to the gas ovens, that were sent to Auschwitz and Buchenwald, again, after being loudly condemned and ridiculed and mocked, again he plays the Holocaust card. Again. I have to be honest, I don't know if he's not right in the head. I don't know, honestly, if the elevator doesn't go to the top, or if he's just so arrogant and so brazen and so full of himself and so consumed with power and hubris that he thinks he can just keep saying the most ridiculous things and get away with it. But then, here is the coup de grace, as the French would say. This one, I gotta tell you, this was an Oscar-worthy performance. This was the one that I'm telling you, if I sat on the Academy Award panel, on the board for the Academy Awards, I would rush up on stage and give him Best Actor, Mini-Me, Diablo Patrick. He's in tears. At this point, he's getting himself so worked up about how we need to bring in these 1,000 Obama illegal immigrants that he starts to cry. He's crying right there on stage. Roll it, Brittany.
The other reason I have offered our help is more personal, less about patriotism and more about faith. I believe that we will one day have to answer for our actions and our inactions. My faith teaches that if a stranger dwells with you in your land, you shall not mistreat him, but rather love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. We are admonished to take in the stranger, for inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, Christ tells us, you did it to me. Every major faith tradition on the planet charges its followers to treat others as we ourselves wish to be treated. I don't know what good there is in faith if we can't and won't turn to it in moments of human need. And I thank Cardinal O'Malley, Bishop Borders, and the many other faith and lay leaders I've spoken with for reminding me of that.
I'm Jesus, and it was Jesus that taught us. No, you take a stranger into your home. It's like the Jews in Egypt. It was Jesus. It was Jesus. I believe. This was pathetic on almost every level. First of all, he's misquoting the scripture. But let that go. Let that go. Whatever happened to separation of church and state? I thought you liberals were against that. Now suddenly you're quoting Jesus. It's that Jesus keeps rolling off your tongue now. Now you've got O'Malley with look at the Catholic cardinal. The Archbishop of Boston. Look at the Protestant minister. Look at this religious leader. Now we love Jewish rabbis. Come here, there's a rabbi there. There's a rabbi there. It's very simple. If you love the children, Mini-Me, you don't put your own children at the back of the line. You don't expose your own people to violent gangbangers, murderers, potential rapists, and kids who have all kinds of infectious diseases that could infect the rest of us. You don't bankrupt your own society, Mini-Me, and your own country and your own state, Mini-Me. That's not compassionate. It's destruction. It's suicide. But notice, look at just how desperate he is. You can tell what he wants is he wants the approval of the Obama regime. He knows the public is against it. He knows the people on Cape Cod don't want it. In Chicopee don't want it. In almost every town and city in Massachusetts, nobody wants this. So now he's going to try to guilt us into somehow thinking we're lesser than. We're just not as morally superior. We're just not as caring and compassionate as Mini-Me is. We're not like Jesus unless we accept these illegal immigrants. But this is all for Mini-Me so he can get a nice cabinet position and get a political payoff from the dear leader. Now, I got something here. I can win this argument in 2 seconds. Here it is, and then I'll open it up to the phone lines. Okay? Here it is. Mini-Me, I'm going to use your own words against you. Now you're quoting scripture. Now you're a big Jesus guy. Now you're a big quote-unquote Bible thumper. Those are the words that you liberals use whenever a Christian cites the Bible, a conservative Christian. Now you love Jesus. Now you're like a Baptist minister on Sunday at a revival meeting. You've got 77 acres. As Howie puts it, bucolic acres, pristine acres. Up at your second home, your vacation home. The one that you built for $4 or $5 million. The 10,000 square foot mansion that you don't allow anybody to go in. Put them on your acres. They can grow crops. They can put a nice tent. The kids can play. They can play soccer. They can play baseball. They can do everything. They can grow food. You name it. They can do everything on your 77 acres, Mini-Me. The strangers, let them into your home. Let them into your home, Mini-Me. This is what I find incredible. This phony, this fraud. He's worth $60 million. He has been lining his pockets for the last 20-some years, playing the race card, being the beneficiary of affirmative action every step of the way. And he stands there and lectures the rest of us that we have to be compassionate and caring and that we're all too greedy. Hey, Mini-Me. On a middle-class salary, I adopted not 1 but 2 children. My wife and I sponsor black children in Africa, just so that you know, Mini-Me, because you're into race. What do you do? What do you do? You run off to your cushy little villa. It's a villa. It's a castle. It's a palace. Something the Mexican drug lords would envy. And you stand there on your 77 acres and you won't even invite state legislators into your house. That's how arrogant you are. The grass, the field, yes, but not in his home, not in his villa. You love these kids so much? You phony, you fraud, you? Put them on your Berkshire estate. 77 acres, that'll take 1,000 people, no problem. And they can grow crops, and they can grow food, and they can pitch up tents, and they can play soccer, and you want to give them toys, you can give them toys. You want to pay for a couple of translators, no problem. No problem. It could be a fiesta, Mini-Me. And they can stay there for as long as you want. You sponsor them. How about that, Mini-Me? But no. You want to dump them on the Cape. You want to dump them on Chicopee. And now we're finding out he's admitting that most of them are then going to be given permanent asylum status, and then they're going to be replaced in all of our communities. In Lynn, in Chelsea, in Salem, in Malden, in Lawrence, in Lowell, you name it, in Saugus, in Peabody, in Quincy. So we pay for it. We live with it. We suffer the impact. We suffer the consequences, but not you, Mini-Me, because then you'll be off to Washington, D.C. to wreak some more havoc and more destruction as you climb the greasy pole of power. You disgusting fraud, you. 617-266-6868. My friends, if you listen to the press conference, and we're going to play a little bit more of it after the bottom of the hour, even he knows that this initiative of his, this effort of his, is so unpopular, it may not come to fruition because there is so much opposition, never mind among Republicans, even among Democrats. If we show up in huge numbers on Saturday and say no mas, no more, this Saturday, 11 to 1, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the steps of the State House, Kuhner Country sponsoring a Stop the Invasion rally. My friends, we can cut him off at the pass and deliver Mini-Me a decisive defeat he will never forget. Are you with me, Kuhner Country? Jimmy, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, a couple of points before I get to what I was going to talk about. First of all, I'm getting a terrible echo.
Jimmy, for some reason, we're having a problem with our phone system. We're going to get it fixed. To all of you out there, Wayne, Kevin, Mike, Brenda, Bill, John, hang on. We'll get to all of your calls after this short break. Deval Patrick Mini-Me, Diablo Patrick, has now come out and said 1,000 illegal immigrants to be housed and sheltered in Cape Cod and in Chicopee. Good idea? Bad idea? Do you want them? I want to hear from you, Boston. 617-266-6868, 6:30 on the Great RKO. More with your calls. Next.
Since there is so much interest and some confusion, I thought we would offer you what information we have so far and address those questions that we can. Before I take your questions, I want to add a couple of other thoughts. Although this is a temporary shelter, should there ultimately be one in Massachusetts, it will be under exclusive federal control and responsibility. And we have received many, many expressions of support for the children and requests for ways to help.
6:39 here on the Great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. And I got to tell you, Mini-Me dumped a huge load. I mean, maybe a mother load in Friday's press conference. Now, just to show you what's starting to happen to the state. And I predicted this. I said it's going to get worse, and it's going to continue to get worse until we, the people, rise up and say we're not going to take it anymore. Here's a story from Long Meadow, Mass. It's at the top of the Drudge Report. It's going viral. Everybody's talking about it. Let me just read to you the headline. Deadly mosquito virus reported in Eastern Mass. It's from WWLP. According to their news affiliate, they now say that there's a problem affecting Long Meadow, Mass, that mosquitoes are descending upon the area, and that in particular the Massachusetts Department of Health confirmed on July 25th, in a July 25th laboratory test in Plymouth County, that an individual was tested positive for triple EEE, a dangerous virus. It's EE for the Eastern Equine Encephalitis. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, or triple E. Apparently someone has tested positive for triple E. Now, many of you may say, Jeff, what the hell is triple E? Triple E is a dangerous virus that actually causes inflammation of the brain. Your brain just begins to swell. And in one out of three, in one third of the cases, it will cause actual death. Your brain just blows up. And so it's a deadly virus. 1 out of 3 people who get it die. Now, they say it's being brought in by a mosquito, which they believe was actually brought in by birds. Birds are typically the long-range carrier of triple E. They take the disease over many miles. Mosquitoes then bite the birds and become the local source for infection when they bite a human. But what's now bizarre is you're now seeing this deadly mosquito virus here in Mass. Now you're seeing the West Nile virus being spotted in Oklahoma. There are now concerns about West Nile in Maryland, in Kentucky. All of a sudden now, as we're being deluged with illegal immigration, all of a sudden, with all these diseases they're bringing in on planes, on buses, you name it, as we bus them and fly them around the country, all of a sudden, we're confronting deadly viruses and diseases we haven't known in decades. Now, suddenly, mysterious mosquito viruses, deadly ones, are just popping up right here in Mass. What a coincidence. So tell me, Mini-Me, is that compassionate too? When we have to worry about God knows who the person beside us in the classroom is and what we can get affected from that person? Is that compassion, Mini-Me? 617-266-6868. To everyone out there, this should not be a liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, independent issue. This is a Massachusetts issue. And when your Commonwealth is invaded, you don't aid and abet it. You stop it. On Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1, Kuhner Country will be holding a major Stop the Invasion rally. Please, I'm begging all of you, bring your friends, bring your family members, bring your relatives, bring as many of you as you can, because the stronger our response, the bigger the crowd. Mini-Me and the governor and the governor's people, they will back down. John, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Kuhner. How are you today?
Good. How are you, John?
Not the reason I called, but I just want to say real quickly, since you mentioned it, Tripoli's actually been around for a long time. I lost an uncle to Tripoli 10 years ago. He was a surveyor. He got bit by a mosquito, and 5 days later he was dead. So it's been around a long time. I don't know if it has anything to do with this. But the one thing I wanted to say about Deval Patrick, I think he actually first had his first real moment since he's become governor, when he was getting choked up because he said he believed that we will be all held accountable for our actions one day. And when that rolled off his tongue, he said, oh, my goodness, I'm going to be held accountable for my partial birth abortion thoughts and these thoughts and those thoughts and all my lying and conniving and representing a rapist in Florida and all of that. So I'm going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt that he had a big, oh, my goodness moment, like I'm going to burn in hell. And that's why he was getting choked up.
That's why he was crying, John? Because he saw the fires of hell. Brenda, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
That was an interesting phone call from John. Perhaps maybe he was having a moment, but I was going to come out of the gate and say, and the Oscar goes to Deval Patrick for pretending to have a conscience. I'm with you, Jeff. Where the hell were you, Deval, when Justina Pelletier was being abused by the state of Massachusetts for a year and a half? I didn't see him at the rally. And where was he when Jeremy Oliver and the whole Olga Roche mess was going on? Oh, that's right. He was defending Olga Roche, and what a bang-up job that DCF was doing. And then, of course, he has the time to go to one of these stupid rallies with Martha Copley recently because of the buffer zone, and they're all bent out of shape. And he has the time to do that because, he needs to defend the killing of our unborn children. Now, we can't even get them out of the womb, okay? But he wants to defend what's going on now with these illegal immigrant children, who I have absolutely a gazillion amount of compassion for. They're tools, they're pawns for these people. They're being used. And in terms of him starting to quote scripture, are you flipping serious? When you start to use God, okay, that's when I get all bent out of shape. You do not mock God. I am a woman of God. I am a sinful gal. I don't condemn myself for it. But when you start using God for your own benefit, you got a problem there, buddy. You got a huge problem, and I'm tired of it. They bring God into the equation just when it's convenient for them. Okay? You nailed it, Jeff, when you said, they get all crazy. Oh, separation of church and state, we can't have this. But when it fits their, agenda, they slowly slip it in. Okay? They may be able to manipulate people's hearts and minds that really don't understand, God, and I don't say that in a holier than thou attitude. Many people don't know God, they don't understand, and they are able to manipulate their minds, but God will not be manipulated, and God will not be mocked. And this stuff really gets my goat when I...
Oh, it's repulsive. And I gotta say this. For Cardinal O'Malley to allow himself to be used like this, like a tool for this radical secular leftist who is an enemy of the church and an enemy of Christianity on abortion, on marriage, on homosexual rights. I could run down the whole list on the contraceptive mandate. My God, the church has come out and said that literally the contraceptive mandate is part of a war on the Catholic Church. No one's a stronger supporter of the contraceptive mandate than Mini-Me. This guy wants to hand out the morning after pill to everybody, free of charge. And that he allows himself to be used by Mini-Me like this? To try to give the imprimatur and the legitimacy of the church to this obvious scam of the American people? This swindle? Cardinal O'Malley, if I were you, I would reconsider my alliances. Because you're making a deal with the devil. And believe me, when you make a deal with the devil, you don't change the devil changes you. Jimmy, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Jimmy.
Much better connection. Yeah, a couple of points. When he refers to the federal government's going to take responsibility, everybody I know, our biggest obligation, more than our mortgage, more than equity loans, anything, is to the federal government. And where's the ACLU pouncing on this? You know, if it was anybody else, it'd be there before the conference was ending, making a comment. But as far as immigration, referring to the Irish, there was nothing like that. I was a fireman in East Boston, so we were responsible for Deer Island. All the islands belong to the city of Boston. There was a prison out there. When they tore down the prison, the old sewer plant, when they were reconfiguring the place, they came across, a body, and they looked and said, it looks like a grave. So they researched the prison, said, no, we didn't have a prison burial ground. Then they kept finding more and more. It turns out there were over 1,200 bodies of Irish immigrants who were kept in quarantine. Most of the poor people, they weren't sick when they left on the trip because of the conditions that they were on the ship, the most treacherous North Atlantic Passage. They were a little more than a mile away from Boston, never made it here. And when they got here, they really weren't welcomed either,
Jimmy, look, you nailed it. This idea that somehow we've always had open borders is another lie. Look, you mentioned the Irish immigrants. Look at Ellis Island. You had to stand in line, you were processed, you were registered because we needed the labor, but if you were sick, if you had some kind of serious illness, you were quarantined or sent back. This idea that somehow you just put them in the general population, this is insane. Only the sick libs could think of something like this. Mike, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Mike.
Jeff, do you recall my call last week when I predicted within 3 days they'll have clergy behind him while he's holding a press conference?
Yes.
Do you remember that call?
Yes, Mike.
Now, here's the same guy that says that we should care for the least of us. When the Supreme Court ruled against the buffer zones, against the anti-abortion crowd people, who's the first two people that want to change that buffer law? Is Coakley and this guy in the State House.
Mini-me.
And then for the Cardinal Yawn, don't say he's, let me tell you something, he's on board with this stuff because it comes right from the Vatican, Jeff. We got a liberal Pope and a liberal Cardinal. He ought to be ashamed of himself, Cardinal Yawn, and I'm calling his office today.
Thank you for that call, Mike. 6:51 on the great WRKO. Let's take it to Rush Limbaugh. Roll it, Brittany.
While the reasons for this surge of new arrivals still need to be understood and addressed, and the debate over immigration reform continues, it bears remembering that these are children alone in a foreign land. They will need age-appropriate toys and books. They will also need the company of responsible adults, especially those who speak Spanish. As a parent, and as one who has himself been a stranger in a strange land, I know this will matter.
Don't forget the EBT cards, Mini-Me. They're going to need that as well. Wayne, you're up next on the great WRKO at 6:58, and welcome.
There's Jeff. What's up, buddy? Hey, I'm a U.S. Marine, okay, and I'm on Cape Cod. And I'm going to tell you something afterwards, but first I want to tell you, I've been telling everybody since you told us about this rally, I've got half of South Boston coming over. I got a couple of representatives coming over, Nick Collins, all good guys that want to come over and be part of this rally and tell this phony, baloney guy who made the worst speech most pathetic speech I ever heard in my life. You can actually hear the desperation coming out of his voice when he starts saying, children, it's the children. Yeah, it's not children, buddy. It's MS-13 gangbangers. It's cartel workers. It could possibly be terrorists, for all we know. And they want to put them right here, right in with us, Jeff. Move them right in.
Wayne, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday, my friend. Kevin, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, I'm going to up with Wayne. On a weekly basis, I work with the chaplains from BC, and truly down-to-earth priest, and bring them out and be part of this rally. I want to take you back, Jeff, to 2006. Deval Patrick, Mini-Me, entered. One of the first things he did was to go against when a judge mandated that the Fernal School out in Waltham, the circumference is 5 miles, okay, between Waltham, Lexington, and Belmont. The Fernal School, where better than 1,000 people had lived, with true challenges. All right, what did he do? He appealed that so that he could just kick them out and start selling off the state property. All right, the people with truly needs without the blessings of you or I. Then I want you to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Kevin, trust me when I tell all of you this. We're going to continue with this in the next hour. You want to see what a fraud Governor Deval Patrick is, Mini-Me is on this issue? I'm going to expose him like nothing ever before. He says he cares about the children? Okay. Don't touch that dial, because you'll see just what a phony Diablo Patrick is. 7:01 here on the great WRKO. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom.
News at the top and bottom, talk in between.
Executing assigned host duties flawlessly because I can't do wrong.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.
7:06 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Kuhner Report. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. You can also text us, as always, 680-680. My friends, we are now joined by John Miller. He is the Republican nominee for State Attorney General. And in particular, Mr. Miller has launched a Massachusetts SAFE to address the humanitarian crisis occurring due to the rise of migrants being flown in, 9 plane loads so far to Massachusetts. Here is what Mr. Miller said, quote, "What is happening on our border is a humanitarian crisis. Massachusetts is now a border state, and we have to act like one." Mr. Miller, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
Well, great. Thank you for having me, Jeff. It's good to be here.
Mr. Miller, so when you say Massachusetts is now a border state and we have to act like one, what do you mean?
Well, I think we've had a kind of a failure of planning or leadership at the border, and now it's pretty clear that the border region itself is not sufficiently prepared to handle this migration, and I just think it's pretty clear that in order to make to solve the problem at the border, the federal government has needed to resort to help from the states. So, it's a plane ride away.
And why have you set up Massachusetts SAFE, and what do you want to accomplish with Massachusetts SAFE?
Well, I think, the job of a lawyer is not so much as in a policy role, but I think the Attorney General's job is to represent the citizens of the state. And, a good lawyer, in order to fashion a solution, you need to find the facts, apply the law, and then you're in a position to figure out the best way to enforce the law. And that's really what the Massachusetts SAFE plan is about. I think we need an independent investigative team to go down, and from Massachusetts we have great healthcare officials Our sheriffs are already up to snuff on a lot of this stuff, but we need to go get the facts, and then we need to, apply the law. And I think we need to secure a binding legal commitment from the federal government that this is their problem. We're happy to help. Massachusetts has a great history of helping, but we need a binding legal commitment to reimburse cities and towns and entities across the Commonwealth for the impact of this. It's much like if a big federal base were positioned in Massachusetts, there'd be an impact agreement. It's much like that, and this should be secured, with lawyers' help. And that's what the AG's job is. It's time to step up.
Here, I'm just quoting from your statement that you released. The quote, our cities and towns are being asked to provide health care, housing, education, and other services to take care of migrant children flown to Massachusetts by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Basically, as you say, we're now a border state. Is your position that Massachusetts should just secure federal money and federal aid to help place these children? Or is your position that we should enforce the immigration laws of this country, which means eventually these children should be deported and sent back home?
Well, I think, I'm not, I think the job is to secure the citizens of this state, their health and their public health and public safety. So it's the job of the federal government to manage the border. The state attorney general has no power to manage the federal border. So I'm not getting in the middle of the politics of that. The AG's job is quite specific. It's to be the lawyer for the citizens of this state. And I just don't think there are sufficient facts have been disclosed as to the numbers of people coming, their health status, where they're going, what's the impact of this on the people of this state. And that's the kind of information that's needed in order to really flesh this out. Now, maybe all these things have been handled, and maybe they're keeping that a secret, but nobody's standing up and saying that they have been handled. And I think, that raises a question. Why is that? And I just think we need to get the facts, apply the law, and then we're in a position to enforce our laws, the Massachusetts laws. We spend $5 billion a year on public health and safety in the state. And, we just want to make sure that we're doing that effectively.
Governor Deval Patrick has said that he denied having any knowledge of these 9 plane loads of illegal immigrants that were flown into the state, and then we don't know what's happened to them. They were released into Massachusetts. Some went up into New Hampshire. This is before the 1,000 extra Central American migrants that he now says we can put in Cape Cod or in Chicopee. So God knows how many we're going to have in the state. Could be in the thousands. Do you believe him when he says he had no knowledge of these plane loads, these 9 plane loads of illegal immigrants being flown to our state?
Well, I don't know. And I think that's the question. My guess is that he didn't know, but I don't know. And I think there's nothing, the facts are the facts. The people of the state are here. They're going to be here tomorrow. I don't understand why transparency is not more of a guidepost here. These facts should be disclosed, and we should be able to handle it. Handle the facts. That's the only way to solve a problem. I've been trained as an engineer. Before I went to law school, and the first thing you are trained is before you start working on a problem, understand the problem. And so I just don't think that we can have an intelligent discussion in this state without putting the facts on the table and understanding the problems that we're facing. And I just think that's the key to this Massachusetts Safe Plan is, we need to send investigators, an investigative team, healthcare and law enforcement to the border. And then I think we need to record get information about who's coming here, make sure that they have all the proper health screening, vaccination, and examinations, just like it would be if they were entering a Massachusetts port of entry. And then I think we need that secure, legal, binding commitment from the federal government as to how long this is going to last, what's going to happen, what the impact payments will be, and how this thing will end. This is not, this is being portrayed as a temporary issue, and I think we need to secure that point as well.
We have been talking with John Miller. He is a candidate for State Attorney General, the Republican nominee. Mr. Miller, is there a website that people can go to get more information?
Yes, it's www.massachusetts.safe.com. And our website for the campaign is millerforag.com.
So Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, www.millerforag.com.
Yep, that's right.
Mr. Miller, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
Okay, thank you.
Best of luck to you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so Mini-Me on Friday kept going on about the children. And it's all about the children. And he cites scripture. And apparently, I don't know what he was talking about. He was born in the south side of Chicago. That's why he and Obama are simpatico, because basically they had the same turf. When he talked about, I was once a stranger myself in a strange land, I have no idea what he's talking about. Was that when you were working for Coca-Cola and they paid you $2 million a year because you were their affirmative action hiree? Was that when you failed the bar 3 times, and then you finally passed it? Was that when Clinton hired you to be his in the Civil Rights Division so you could line your pockets? Was it what, the $60 million that you've made being a shyster lawyer for most of your life? Where were you a stranger in a strange land, Mini-Me? Oh, is it in the Berkshire? In the Berkshires, when you're there at your estate, your 77-acre estate on your $5 million mansion. So you're alone when you walk around on that 77 acres? You feel like a stranger in a strange land, Mini-Me? I'm just trying to understand where you're going with this. So there he is talking about the children. Now, let me ask all of you this, just to show you how perversely, dangerously disconnected from reality this guy is. The children of this state, nearly 140 have died or gone missing under his watch, under his DCF, under his Department of Children and Families. 140. When it came to Justina Pelletier, he didn't give a damn. Frankly, if it wasn't for the likes of Jeff Kuhner, she'd still be rotting in that psychiatric ward. You know who cares about the children? Not you, Mini-Me. Jeff Kuhner does. This audience does. Not you, you phony, you fraud. Tell me, when Jeremiah Oliver was found in a suitcase because your DCF people wouldn't do the basic follow-ups to look after him, were you looking after the children then, Mini-Me? How about all the infants that have been dropping dead and dying like flies under your DCF, Mini-Me? Was it about the children then, Mini-Me? Now, check this out. Just to show you what a phony and a fraud this guy is, okay? I mean, honestly, it's sickening. It's sociopathic. The man's a sociopath. He's a pathological liar. So, he now says that they have picked 2 locations for these so-called children. 16, 17, many of them 20 years old. They just say 17 on their documents. Many of them, by the way, gang members. I'll get to that in a second. And the 2 spots that they've picked is Joint Base Cape Cod in Bourne and Westover Air Base in Chicopee. So basically they want to dump them in Bourne, on the Cape, and in Chicopee. Newswires. I'm just as straight from the newswires. Boston. House legislators on Wednesday rejected several of Governor Deval Patrick's budget amendments, listen very carefully, including a recommendation to remove language that would set aside at least $1.3 million each year to reimburse school districts, such as Bourne's, for the cost of educating students from military families. The Democratic-controlled State House rejected Mini-Me's attempts to remove language that would set aside $1.3 million each year to reimburse school districts for the cost of educating students from military families in places just like Bourne. He didn't want the $1.3 million to go to educate the students from military families. The State House did, Mini-Me didn't. So let me get this straight. If you're the son or daughter, children from military families, vets, many of whom died in Iraq or Afghanistan, or came back crippled or maimed, he will not fund the money. He will not support the money so they can get proper funding for their education, to help them defray the costs of their education. So if you're the child of a vet, blank you, screw you, according to Mini-Me. But if you're an illegal immigrant, with the dear leader giving you a call saying, hey ho, you gotta bail me out here. Davol, you gotta bail me out. Then all of a sudden, it's Scripture, it's Jesus, it's Cardinal O'Malley, it's whoever. Hey, then suddenly, he's a born again. Suddenly it's for the children. Now, check this out. Not only are the Republicans up in arms, not only are the independents up in arms, even many Democrats are saying, this man is insane. This man is completely insane. On Howie's show, Democratic State Representative Jim Maselli was on. I swear, I almost burst a gut laughing. I was driving. I had a doctor's appointment, finished my doctor's appointment. I turn on Howie. There's a Democrat, Jim Maselli. And Jim Maselli is saying, I'm going to give this guy a piece of my mind. That was Friday, he said on Monday. So today he's going to give Mini-Me a piece of his mind. And Jim Maselli is saying, I can't believe this guy would do this to us. We're at the breaking point for our schools, our hospitals, housing, and this guy wants to bring in another 1,000? And then he told this story about what kind of a guy Deval Patrick is. Jim Maselli wanted to put what he called a line item, meaning an earmark. Why did he want, for $25,000, not $250,000, not $25 million, $25,000, which in a $36 billion budget, that's peanuts. That's chump change. Okay, that's nothing. That's a couple of shekels. And why did he want $25,000? Chump change. For, I kid you not special needs. For severely special needs kids in their district to build them a facility. What did Mini-Me do? For the children. Roll it, Brittany.
Let me tell you a story. And I never take cheap shots at the governor, but he deserves one. He deserves one, and this is fact. I'll give you the facts. We just enacted a budget. In that budget, there was a small line item, earmark, for $25,000.
Yeah.
And it was in my district. It was to fund a camp. And, usually I can get things through the budget, but it was to fund a camp for special needs children.
Yeah.
They had raised money from other sources. They needed $25,000 more. That went in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
He said we couldn't afford it. He vetoed it. $25,000. So he's a hypocrite.
I mean, that's not me saying it. That's a Democratic representative. That's a Democrat in the State House. So, I want you to think about this, okay? If you're Jeremiah Oliver, found dead in a suitcase, blank you. If you're Olga Roche, how many kids died under her? Blank you. If you're Justina Pelletier, blank you. If you're some poor child of a vet, blank you. If you're some poor special needs kid in Jim Maselli's district, a measly $25,000, we don't have the money. We don't have the money. But if you're an unaccompanied minor with scabies, lice, tuberculosis, or a 13 tattooed on your face. Okay, MS-13, a gangbanger. It's about the children. Come on down. 617-266-6868. Now you know why that fraud was crying on stage. Because he had to give the Academy Award performance of his life. And he did.
This is AM 680 WRKO.
The point is that this good nation is great when we open our doors and our hearts to needy children, and diminished when we don't. The other reason I have offered our help is more personal, less about patriotism and more about faith. I believe that we will, one day, have to answer for our actions and our inactions.
We're going to have to one day answer, and it's the children. Are they buying it? Yeah, they're buying. Yeah. Okay, keep it. So I need the cape, and I need Chicopee, and after that, let me see here. No, Brockton, no. Newton, no. Brookline, no. Marblehead, no. No, my liberal friends live there. They raise a lot of money. Wellesley, no. They raise a lot of money for me there. I need Lynn, and I need Chelsea, and I need Saugus, and I need Quincy, and I need Peabody, and okay. It's about the children. Jesus, what would Jesus have done? He would have said, in your neighborhood, but not in mine. Jennifer, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I just want to let you know I was one of the protesters outside of Otis Air Force Base yesterday.
Okay, good for you, Jennifer.
And I wanted to share with you that we were very well received, and people were hanging out of their cars as they were driving by, thanking us for being there.
Jennifer, so you're saying you got a very strong response from the community?
Yes, if you look at CapeCodTimes.com, there was a write-up about us, and the reporter even said that there were more people, much more people, pro what we were doing than against.
Now, Jennifer, what are the people worried about so much? What were you hearing from them?
Well, you know, we were just there because we live in Bourne, and we're just very concerned that this is a rotating door, that people are going to come into Otis, and then go right out into our community, and more are going to be coming in. So we just needed to have a voice, and we were. It was just a great reception that we received.
Jennifer, Kuhner Country is going to be holding a major Stop the Invasion rally this Saturday, July 26th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the steps of the state capitol, on the steps of the State House, right across from Boston Common. Will you be there? Can your people show up, Jennifer?
All of us are talking about you, Jeff, yesterday, and we are all going to be there. And someone just suggested that you call the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, because they do have a relationship with ICE, and they are receiving funds and driving people from Logan. We just don't know where they're going.
Okay.
So I encourage you to call the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office.
I definitely will do that. And thank you for all of your hard work and your patriotism, Jennifer.
Thank you. We had a great time yesterday, and thank you very much.
God bless you, Jennifer. 617-266-6868 is the number. 7:30 on the great WRKO. My friends, more with your calls. Don't touch that dial. 7:35 here on the great WRKO. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us at 680-680. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. All right, my friends, here it is. You keep hearing this from the defenders of the regime, and they're getting smaller and smaller by the day. I swear to you, even the libs here at Entercom, who before kept bragging, oh, I voted for the dear leader, 2008, 2012. All of a sudden now, nobody voted for him. I didn't vote for him. Don't look at me. I don't know how this guy got elected, because nobody now voted for him. It's now all the libs are now running from him as far as they can, because they see the disaster and the wreckage everywhere. Well, the diehards, You know, the ones that would be with Hitler in the bunker. The diehards. Jeff, this is all anecdotal. How can you say these are gangbangers? How can you say these are criminals? These are 4, 5, 6-year-old children. Come on, Jeff. Why are you inflaming the situation and demonizing these poor victims of obvious violence and drug war, and the drug wars in Central America? How could you be so cold and callous, Jeff? Okay. This is straight from a former U.S. Border Patrol deputy chief. Okay, one of the top head honchos at the U.S. Border Patrol. Ronald Coburn. He has told Breitbart News, hat tip to them, that the southern border, according to him, is seeing, quote, the kind of chaos we saw along the border prior to 9/11, unquote. In other words, whatever improvements were made at the border, whatever enhancements were made, have now all been squandered because of the dear leader's amnesty open borders policy. But let that go. Here is the key point. He then goes on to tell Fox News that, quote, 1 in 5 illegal aliens coming in today has a criminal record. Let me give you the exact quote. Okay? Quote, 1 in 10 of every adult male crossers in this day and age more than likely already has a violent criminal record here in the United States. Let me pause. That means they're already here. They committed a violent crime, shot somebody, assaulted somebody, raped somebody, murdered somebody. I go back. Has been removed and is returning. So you see, they killed somebody, raped somebody, they threw them out, and now they're coming back in. He continues. Another 1 in 10, making it now 1 in 5, is bringing with him or her their violent criminal tendencies and records from their own countries of which we don't know yet, according to Coburn. So 1 in 5 either had already come into this country, committed God knows what, murdered, raped, assaulted, brutalized somebody, or they did so from Central America, and now they're coming in. He also says, quote, now, no one wants to talk about the role of the Mexican drug cartels, who are feasting upon these children, charging their parents or whatever, charging them $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. Many of these minors have been assaulted. Many of them have been raped by these human smugglers, these animals. In fact, there are now reports coming out from the border being told to U.S. intelligence that they are holding guns to the back of the heads of these unaccompanied minors, telling their families to send money, more money to them, or they will be killed. They're in fact forcing other minors to then cut off the hands or the fingers of one of these Central American migrants if the money doesn't arrive. That's why many of them are coming mutilated at the border. This is the kind of torture and human rights abuses that the dear leader is fostering because of his amnesty policy. But again, I digress. Let that go. Coburn continues, quote, that the drug cartels are mocking the United States. Quote, as a border security subject matter expert, I am closely linked with the intelligence community. And we do watch the social networks, the electronic networks, where we see the cartels boasting about their gains being made and laughing at the United States government's handling of this situation. They are coming here not to contribute to society, but to prey on society. They're laughing at us. They're laughing at us. Because they know we're not going to do anything about it. We're just going to keep taking them in and taking them in and taking them in. And the drug cartels are going to keep making boatloads of money, essentially exploiting and trafficking children. Coburn also says, and this is very worrisome, that the morale of the Border Patrol, I mean, they are completely demoralized, has, quote, never been this poor. They want to leave. They've lost control of the border. They're overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. It's like they're foot soldiers in an army in which now they find out their generals and their commander-in-chief is working for the other side. They don't want to fight anymore. They feel stabbed in the back by their own government. And here we have to put up with the spectacle of Mini-Me and the Democrats lecturing us about compassion? Are you kidding me? 617-266-6868 is the number. Victoria, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Mr. Kuhner, this is an outrage. And what you just described about the gang's attitudes toward the children in the USA and that they will be preying upon us. I have a statement from a woman who I met at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross to venerate the relic of St. John Paul II this past June. And this woman said that 50 years ago when she came to America, I worked, she said, in a nursing home, and I met an elderly gentleman. He was an American, a good man, and he told me, the prophecy of America is that America will go down on her knees, and she has to lose her pride. Since then, she said, I have been thinking about this all the time. How America is going to go down on her knees. How? Is there going to be a civil war? I do not think she is going to be fighting each other. Just now, this was last Sunday, July 13th, she said, I was watching the C-SPAN channel, and I heard about the children coming from Guatemala and Central America. By what I heard, the gangs are abusing and raping the children and saying, do not worry, you are going to America. The gangs have in mind the situation in America. The gangs know America will feel sorry for them. I heard one senator saying, we are using a lot of money with all these children coming to America. There is not much money left to pay the security guards. That woke me up, she said. If America does not have enough money, she will not be able to pay the security guards. Then the enemy will be coming in. The door will be open for the enemy to come in and fight. There is going to be a war. We will have to fight with them. They are prepared. We are not prepared. And America will be like another Middle East. We will be in a situation where we cannot help ourselves. In that moment, only God can help us. And America will go down on her knees. Now I am sure. This is the prophecy. Mr. Kuhner, you are the only talk show host I will listen to, frankly, when Mr. Savage is not on his show. I heard Mr. Savage say last week, I believe, that he called out, he bellowed, God, step in and save our country. I heard you say last week, Mr. Kuhner, we fought a revolution for this. Mr. Kuhner, we are under siege. This is an outrage. We simply have to stand up and speak out, and I'm calling now in honor of your rally that you have helped organize July 26th. It is the same day as the feast day of the parents of Mary, the mother of Jesus, and I am the daughter of an Air Force pilot, and I have been brought here to Boston from the days when I started going to college. I saw the children's mosaics in the North End where the children drew pictures of their trip on the Freedom Trail. I knew I needed to come to college, to come to Boston, because I have been so passionately seeking what is true freedom, what is the freedom of the individual. The children's pictures showed the Liberty Bell, Paul Revere on his horse, a flower, a steeple, and I am calling to help transmit this message about how dire this situation is, which is what you are doing. Are you still there, Mr. Kuhner?
Yeah, I'm listening. I mean, you have me enraptured.
Yes. Oh, thank you. So I am calling with this mission that we have to start a prayer brigade to protect our country as like a prayer posse, prayer protection posse, and to create an artillery, a gauntlet. And I am willing to help continue to communicate with you. I have had a calling with this and not knowing exactly where it would go, but I've been being led.
Look, I got to tell you, you've done an incredible job so far.
Thank you.
What you're conveying to the people of Massachusetts is this. Yes. We are under siege.
Yes.
This is an invasion. Mm-hmm. And we now have to stand up. We are now the Republics and Liberties Brigade. Yes. And this Saturday is going to be our stand. Mm-hmm. It's going to be showdown at high noon from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Yes.
And we need all of us to show up in huge numbers. Mm-hmm. Have a protest like we haven't seen in this state in decades. To send a message loud and clear. You are not going to turn this state from Massachusetts to Massachusetts. Yes. No más, no more. Comprende the Diablo, Patrick? Are you listening? Because the peasants have had enough. The peasants have had enough. And thank you so much for that call, Victoria. Look, my friends, on Saturday, one of the things I did this weekend is we're trying to do a lot more events with Kuhner Country and members of Kuhner Country. And so what we did was we handed out through this hotline that we had, through this contest, we had tickets to the Adams Historical Society. About 25 members of Kuhner Country went. They won tickets. And we went to visit the home of John Adams, the home of John Quincy Adams, who was our 6th president, the son of John Adams. We visited multiple homes. We visited John Adams's gravestone, his tomb, that of John Quincy Adams. And a wonderful woman by the name of Kathy gave a talk at the church where the tomb of John Adams, Abigail Adams, John Quincy Adams, and his wife Louisa Catherine, where they all lay, where they all rest. She quoted a letter from John Adams in 1777, where he wants not just his family, but the world to know, and this is what he said, that never has a generation sacrificed and given so much, died and suffered so much, so that others could have the benefits and blessings of freedom and liberty. And when you see the humble beginnings of John Adams and how he rose as a lawyer, how he took on 600 clients in those days in the wilderness with the rocky roads and the pebbles, I swear to you, he would travel by horse and buggy to Maine. Not on the highway like we have here, on horse and buggy, on little dirt roads with rocks. It would take him days in almost subhuman conditions to defend his clients in Maine, in Vermont, in Rhode Island, in New Hampshire, in Connecticut. And he built up a small little fortune for him and his family. But when his country called, when he saw the abuses being perpetrated against his own people, against his fellow colonists, he was willing to risk it all. The lives of his family members, his home, his land, his property, his wealth, everything. Because had they lost, the British would have confiscated everything. And I was telling this to Cooksey as we're walking around. I said, he could have easily said, I'm very comfortable. I'm a successful lawyer. My father was a farmer. Look at the acres I have. Look at the beautiful home I have. Look at the clients I have. I don't need this. I'm just going to be complacent. I'm going to do nothing. Instead, he went to the front lines. Instead, he who loved his wife so much, the love affair between Abigail and John Adams, they were married for over 50 years, is the stuff of legends. People said it's almost impossible to imagine that two people could love each other more than John and Abigail. You should read their love letters. It will bring you to tears. But in service of his country, he went to France to negotiate a peace treaty for our independence. He often went abroad to negotiate on behalf of the United States. He often went to Washington and to Philadelphia and to Virginia and to places all over the world to represent us, where he would be separated from his own wife. Literally half their marriage they spent away from one another. And he would often write how it broke his heart that he had to be away from the woman that he loved so much and the family that he loved so much. He then said this in that letter: if future generations do not appreciate and are not grateful for everything that founding generation did and all the sacrifices they made, then he in heaven, as he put it, will have to repent, because it will be a great sin that will be committed upon those that gave everything for us. I have people calling this show saying they can't make it to the rally because they don't know where to find parking, or they don't want to pay for the parking. These men were willing to risk it all. Our motherland is being invaded. Our Commonwealth is being invaded. Our republic is being stolen from us right in front of our eyes by a criminal gang led by this governor who has run this state into the ground. This is about our state. This is about our children. This is about what kind of people will we be. As Shakespeare put it, shall we be or not be? Shall we be a nation that will have the rule of law, that will protect the liberties and rights of its own citizens and its own people? Or are we going to allow any criminal, any gangbanger, any member of the Mexican drug cartel, any murderer, any rapist, any people with diseases to come in here and pick us off one by one? To say, essentially, America is no more? It is but a geographic expression, but not a nation, not a republic, not a constitutional republic? This Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., on the steps of the State House, across from the Boston Common, is the beginning, I believe, of a second American Revolution. My friends, it is time to take our state, our republic, and our country back. If not now, when? If not us, who? America, awake.
Thoughts, ideas, opinions.
The only thing that can change course is the American people rising up.
On AM 680, WRKO.
Bob, you're up next on the great WRKO, and welcome.
Yeah, Jeff, I couldn't be more disappointed in people, I think, that are on our side, like the Cardinal and this Charlie Baker. I don't know where we're going. I don't know what we're going to do. I just wish and pray to God that Sean O'Connell would jump in the ring here. It's time for her to be up there. Talk to her, will you please, somebody?
Bob, she's going to be at the rally. I'm telling you, she's going to be at the rally, and we're going to talk a little bit about Charlie Baker after the break. We'll talk a little bit more about him, because he frankly deserves even more criticism. Robert, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Good morning, Mr. Kuhner. My name is actually Robert Capucci. I'm running for state senate in the 2nd Middlesex District. And one of the things that we need to do this November 4th is get out there and vote out people like the woman I'm challenging, Pat Jalen, who sponsored legislation for in-state tuition for illegals and driver's license for illegals. And this is the kind of things that we need to do. We need to remove these incentives so that we can stand by our constitutional law and our free republic. My website is www.votecapucci.com if people want to get involved. And for all the Republican candidates out there, I urge everybody to join a campaign, volunteer, get on your megaphone, and let's vote these people out who are destroying the fabric of our nation from within. They've got to be removed. and it's through the legal process of elections.
Thank you so much for that call, Robert. From your lips to God's ears. 617-266-6868, 801 on the great WRKO. My friends, so much more. Don't touch that dial.
News at the top and bottom. Talk in between.
Yes, it is. Thank me very much. Go right ahead, my friend.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.